One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar. Insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry. A metal mayhem that will never die. With engines roaring, he paves his way. A legend in the making, day by day.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful topless Taco Tuesday. Let's get this morning. Great to see everyone. Guys, we've got a lot going on, but actually not a humongous amount of, stories to go with it. So we do have a lot of going on around the globe, and we're going to be discussing that. U.S. strikes Iran. We're going to talk about that as well on the defensive strikes on Iran, southern Iran in particular. Then we have an update on the Texas primary. There are some things going on that's, being followed heavily right now. And then global updates, of course. So we're going to start off with this morning on a chronological timeline, which I'm going to give you right now, is U.S. strikes Iran in self-defense, officials say. And we actually broke that news yesterday right when it happened, basically like 5 minutes after it happened. We broke the news on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. We put it on as a post. So we didn't go live with it. Then we have Paxton looks to unseat Cornyn. I don't know how to say his name, to be honest. Cornyn, after late stage Trump endorsement. So this is regarding of Texas, right? It says right here, they're talking with Jeanette Hoffman as Texas voters will be heading back to the polls Tuesday for a series of high-stakes primary runoff elections. This includes the heated battle for the U.S. Senate between incumbent John Cornyn and Attorney General Ken Paxton. Cornyn, period. Cornyn is navigating a difficult re-election campaign against Paxton, who gained significant momentum after receiving a late-stage endorsement by President Donald Trump. All right. So we also have the threat of major explosion from toxic chemical tank is eliminated, officials say. Now, this came out 11 hours ago. The threat of a major explosion, they're saying, the officials are saying that has now been eliminated. It says a damaged tank containing dangerous toxic chemicals is no longer a risk of a catastrophic explosion, officials say during a press conference on Monday. As a result, some people who live near the tank are no longer under an evacuation order, although thousands still are. So remember, there was 40,000 people that were under evacuation just yesterday. And so it sounds like as the greater level, it's gone down to, a few thousand. It says all those thousands. So I don't know the exact number. Officials said while the worst possible scenario of a major explosion has been eliminated, there is still the possibility for a smaller blast or fire. Residents are urged to follow all official orders and exercise caution. Now, you guys know that's over there in Garden Grove. We've been following that story, obviously, since yesterday. And actually, I've been following it since the day prior. But nonetheless, as of 10 hours ago, no dust, no dollars. Trump says outline plans for Iran's nuclear material. This is regarding to the dust, actually. It says the U.S. launched attacks on multiple targets in Iran on Monday. U.S. Central Command confirmed. And yes, it was against missile launchers as well as boats that were potentially going to drop mines in the strait. And then the next thing we'll be looking at is, of course, the discussion about this tank. Okay. What is MMA, which is the actual substance that's in that tank? Methacrylate, whatever. I can't say it, pronounce it correctly, but we have exactly what it is and what it builds and what they use it for. We have that for you guys, the answers. Then we have strikes ramp up across Middle East after U.S. strikes Iran in, quote, self-defense. And then we have an update on Rubio. Marco Rubio says negotiations still continue with Tehran, even though we just saw the strikes yesterday that the United States did. We're still under a ceasefire. I mean, the ceasefire is very fragile right now, as everyone knows, but diplomacy is still on the table. All right, so that's what we're going to be looking at this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Real quick, let's go ahead and do our call to actions, and then we'll get into the craziness. Make sure you guys hit that like button, double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side, and hit that subscribe button. This is what we do Monday through Friday, reporting the world news, geopolitics, American politics, all of that's, breaking news. But then, of course, we have Saturday morning for members only, where we don't discuss any of this shit. We actually have a good time over there. Speaking of members, please consider becoming a member. Starting only at $3.99 a month. We're making sure we're not breaking the bank out there with anybody. But check it out. This is what allows us to be on these airwaves as well as have these lights on. So thank you guys for becoming members and staying members. Little side note here. Follow my Instagram, and there's Lucy right behind me. This is a great way to get a hold of me one-on-one. Also, this is where you guys can follow me for all the behind the scenes of not only the show, of my life, Millennial Food Time, all that great shit. It's a great way to get a hold of me. We also have a Discord server for all of you legends where we continue the conversations, because we're only on live for an hour, and then we all continue the conversations in the Discord server. The link is in the video description down below. Make sure you guys join up. We have 95% of you guys, I would say, in there, but we need to have 100%. And last but not least, all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, and membership signups are, of course, all going to be presented live and shouted out onto the show. But if you guys like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut that they take from your hard-earned cash, we have these platforms that are scrolling around the screen. At any time, you can donate to those, and I get 100% of the proceeds, as well as I'll be reading out loud whatever you guys send through those, and I'll read it out loud just like a super chat. So I've got my email up. We're scrolling always. Real quick, before we get into the madness this morning, I want to give a big thank you to the coffee crew, Motobomb Virginia, Carney, Sick Bastard. You guys all rated us this morning, so thank you for that. Very much appreciate your guys' support, man. Definitely goes a long way. All right, let's go ahead and try our fastest and damnness to just scroll through real fast. We got Rabbit of Chaos. Good morning to you. Great to see you, by the way. We got Easy Frank as well as PJ. Shout out to you guys. We got Gary as well as Straight Jacket. Yes, sir. We got Steve Easy as well as Roger Calvert. Yes, sir, my man. Great to see you in the chat as well. We got Naomi as well. Always appreciate you. We got Charlie Rose. Well, thank you for hanging out with us. Easy Frank, you probably just saw Lucy running behind me. We got Eric as well. Good morning to you. Let's see. We're running our way down here. We got Carney Vanguard and Pablo. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Yes, Steve Easy says double tap that screen and give a like from Mike. That's a fact. Let's see here. We got Perez as well saying good morning to everybody. We got Motobomb Virginia. Yes, sir. And we're running our way down as fast as humanly possible, I promise. Bertha, I see you as well. Good morning to you, as well as Bob from up there in Canada. Always appreciate you as well. We got Steve Posey. All right, guys, we're going to get into the madness this morning. Let's do it. We're going to start off with U.S. strikes Iran and self-defense officials.
Here with some breaking news that we are following for you. This being reported by Reuters' very own Phil Stewart, putting this out on X, saying U.S. forces carry out strikes in southern Iran in self-defense. U.S. Central Command says U.S. strikes targeted missile launch sites in Iranian boats seeking to lay mines. U.S. Central Command says U.S. military will defend U.S. forces while using restraint during the ongoing ceasefire, Central Command says. So activity is brewing right now in the Middle East here. And
now, right as this report actually came out from Phil Stewart, that's where I saw it yesterday. He was one of the very first people on the mainstream level to actually say anything about it. So I made a post about it. I'll really quickly actually bring you guys over to my channel, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Let's go ahead and bring up my channel here real quick, just so I can show you guys. And also, I re-laid out the entire home screen for Insane Wheels. By the way, I've updated a lot of things, including the banner, the home. You know, the way that it's laid out, it's definitely different now. But anyways, over to the posts. We reported this yesterday, 15 hours ago. Breaking, U.S. Forces have carried out strikes in southern Iran. U.S. Central Command says the strikes targeted missile launch sites and Iranian boats preparing to lay mines. The action was taken in self-defense. No U.S. forces were harmed. Ceasefire remains in place for now. This is a developing situation. Insane Wheels on YouTube. But yes, this is what, you know, this is what you guys follow us for, man. So anyways, we definitely do our best to try to, of course, break news when it happens. All right, let's go ahead and bring this back up. My apologies, I had to interrupt.
This all comes as negotiations seemed like they were going in a positive direction. Over the weekend, we heard multiple times from President Trump via Truth Social saying that negotiations were in a good favor. And again, it seemed like it was getting close to the finish line. Now, earlier, President Trump put this out on Truth Social saying the enriched uranium nuclear dust will either be immediately turned over to the
TVT. And this is what we were talking about, the dust being handed over real quick. The enriched uranium nuclear dust will either be immediately turned over to the United States to be brought home and destroyed, or preferably in conjunction and coordination with the Islamic Republic of Iran, destroyed in place or at another acceptable location with the Atomic Energy Commission or its equivalent being witness to this. And thank you for your attention to this matter, blah, blah, blah. All right, here we go.
United States to be brought home, its equivalent being witness to this event. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. So we take you now back out live right now to the White House as we're learning that new report from Reuters that there has been now strikes happening in southern Iran. We're also learning this from Fox News' very own Jennifer Griffin saying, putting this out, saying CENTCOM spokesperson Captain Tim Hawkins to Fox says U.S. forces conducted self-defense strikes in southern Iran today to protect our troops from threats posed by Iranian forces. Targets included missile launch sites and Iranian boats attempting to emplace mines. U.S. Central Command continues to...
I actually did see this, Steve Easy. I saw the headline on it last night. That's where I saw it.
Defend our forces while using restraint during the ongoing ceasefire. So now
Joker, good morning.
Fox News continuing to report on this breaking news of strikes now in southern Iran from the U.S. forces feeling that they needed to do so in self-defense. This is all happening as negotiations are trying to get to that finish line. We'll continue to follow the very latest here for you.
And of course, that's what we're doing. We're following all the stories. Any story that we bring up for you guys, we follow it. We do our damnness to make sure if we're going to present something, we are going to follow the story. Anyways, let's get into this next story here. Regards to Texas and their primary runoff. It says Paxton looks to unseat Cornyn after late-stage Trump endorsement. I guess Trump came in and actually endorsed this man, kind of super late in the game, obviously. We got TVT coming in with the 12 months. It's a full year, by the way. New page looks good, brother. Well, thank you very much for that, TVT. I'm trying to look a little bit more professional and more branded to what we do now. The home screen wasn't updated on my side for the Insane Wheels page for like 2.5 years. So it was way outdated and definitely needed to happen. But TVT, thank you for the year, man. That's awesome. Making it rain in the chat, man. Very much appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and bring up this story here. Give me 2 seconds here. 1, 2, bam.
And welcome back, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Mike Page. Always great to be with you as we continue to roll on. All right, we are on the eve of the runoff election out in Texas between John Cornyn and Ken Paxton. Of course, President Trump putting out on Truth Social that he was endorsing Ken Paxton, and now we see what the voters think. We have been seeing, no doubt, what has happened in the past with those recommendations and endorsements that President Trump has had. So if you're Ken Paxton right now, you're probably going to sleep pretty good tonight.
Yeah, you're probably ecstatic.
But let's bring in our next guest to help bring...
Now, this is obviously from yesterday, okay? So the primary election is to be held today, okay?
it all down. Please welcome Jeanette Hoffman, Republican.
Oh shit. We got Straight Jacket coming in with the $2 saying 119 countries. And I know exactly what you're referring to, and I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. Thank you for the $2, my man. Making it rain. Always appreciate it. Straight Jacket, my man.
Strategist. Jeanette, great to have you on here. And so we've seen what has happened with these endorsements as of late from President Trump. Does it continue for Ken Paxton tomorrow?
Well, Ken Paxton could be a lucky guy with President Trump's endorsement because he does have a very successful track record in these Republican primaries. He's very popular among the MAGA base, and Republican primaries tend to be lower voter turnout. So really the most
real quick, Pablo. So only 4 races on the Republican primary ballot. What about the Democrats?
Voted of the Republican base is going
to
look
turn like
out
on their
in this
side?
Texas primary. So that does bode well for Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, who has the endorsement of President Trump. John Cornyn is the sitting U.S. Senator. He's been there since 2002. So he's hoping that his record of serving the state of Texas is going to prevail. But we'll have to see. I mean, it's a really one of the hottest races in the entire country.
Yeah, it really, really is. And I think some people that maybe that weren't so glued in to the race.
Sick bastard. Yes, sir. Good morning to you. And thank you again for the raid with Motobomb and Carney and all those guys.
When they saw President Trump endorsing Ken Paxton, maybe were a little thrown off. But others say, that Cornyn was more of the establishment, and he feels that Ken Paxton is going to be more in the MAGA vision.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think President Trump held off for a little while, and people thought he may have stayed neutral in this race because Senator Cornyn has pretty much been a Trump ally during his time in the Senate. During the president's first term, Senator Cornyn was the GOP whip and helped him to get votes. And it was even rumored at one point that President Trump had asked Senator Cornyn to be his FBI director in his cabinet. So folks thought that maybe President Trump would stay neutral here, but I think sometimes President Trump wants to be with the winner, and it was reading the tea leaves, so he endorsed Attorney General Paxton.
You know, it's funny because I am literally a part of the Republican Party, like actually involved in local government. And it's funny because anytime that we get somebody that comes on like this, Republican strategist, as she's labeled, I immediately wonder if what side of the aisle that she, people actually fall on, not just her specific, just people that call themselves like Republican strategists, because there's like 2 strategies within the Republican Party right now, as we all totally know. So it's like, oh, what side are you, trying to cater to here,
But in here. But then, Senator Cornyn had said, this is not an endorsement against me. It's against the establishment and the Senate that hasn't gotten enough done for President Trump.
And it seems like this go around for President Trump in his second administration.
What's up, Pops? Good morning to you. Hopefully you and Mountain Woman had a phenomenal Memorial weekend and Memorial Day. And great to see you guys in the chat.
It seems that he has more pull right now with the endorsements that he is doing rather than the first time go around when he was president.
Oh, yeah. No, that's very true. What Mike just said, like, it seems like Trump's got a little bit more sway with what he says and who he endorses now. And that's very true. It's odd, but people, even with Trump doing like kind of like, obvious anti MAGA, things such as this war and all this stuff, whatever. It's amazing that people, no matter they still are like, Daddy Trump said for me to do this, so I got to do it. It's very interesting because especially where Trump came from, remember, he was the most hated person ever. And I think that's why people ended up doing that, where they were like, now that I've got loyalty to you or something like that. But now that Trump has that loyalty, it's interesting how it's being ran. But anyways, it's very true. It is weaponized to an extent, endorsements and stuff like that. Of course, if for instance, the president of the United States come in and endorses let's say a state senator or even a U.S. senator or whatever, it does obviously sway how the public is going to vote for you. it's not going to be down to your policies and the way that they like you. It's dependent on who else likes that person, which is odd.
Heading into midterms. Why is that?
Well, I think it's just, for so many years, he has been in control of the Republican Party, and he's known now as the leader of the Republican Party. So he's obviously has a very powerful war chest to back these races, and he's been very successful. If you look at Louisiana and Senator Bill Cassidy, that he basically got behind his opponent, Thomas Massey in Kentucky, that member of Congress he ousted.
What's
even
up, Sage? Good morning.
Legislative races in Indiana, kind of it's, people are calling it his vengeance tour. And, he's looking to those who have not been.
Hell yeah, Sage. I very much appreciate it. And if you guys are just coming in, make sure you guys hit that like button. It's #1 metric of all of YouTube. Very much appreciate it. And it's free to do so. Double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. We always appreciate you guys. Also, real quick, we got Black Dragon Biker TV coming in hot. Good morning to you, kind sir. Hopefully you're enjoying your morning, and happy Memorial Weekend belated at this point, obviously. Hopefully you enjoyed your weekend, and I definitely know that we did.
Loyal to him to remove them from office.
Yeah, I mean, just last week, he's even throwing out the idea that maybe somebody should run against Boebert in Colorado.
Yeah. When she came out and was stumping for Thomas Massey during his campaign, he sent out a warning shot and via a Truth Social post, as he often does, that she may be in trouble. That
real quick, by the way, Straight Jacket, Black Dragon's in the horizontal side of the stream.
And she's been a loyal MAGA soldier, as you know. So it's interesting to see. I mean, he really values loyalty above anything else. But, at the same time, he's going to have to deal with members of Congress in the Senate and in the House who he ousted that are going to be in office for the next 6 months, who have
very true
nothing to lose and may vote against his agenda.
Well, they absolutely will, especially if Trump picked the other side. Let's just say it was 2 Republicans running for the position and he picked one and whatever. The one that's currently in there until November is definitely not going to work well with Trump leading up to that, because Trump may be the reason for, let's say, him endorsing a candidate. Now that candidate gets in and until that candidate actually takes office in November, you're definitely going to struggle getting anything done in Congress. It's already hard enough with Congress.
Yeah, that is the double-edged sword there, as always. Going back to Texas, Jeanette, in your opinion, who has a better shot at the primary in the general election when we get there? Would it be Paxton or Cornyn to take on the Democrat challenger?
Well, it depends on who you ask. The base is very excited about Ken Paxton. There's a lot of enthusiasm for him. But John Cornyn, listen, he's been in office since 2002. He's tried and true. He's more of the establishment. He's represented Texas for a long time. Ken Paxton has had some allegations against him. So folks think that he may be a weaker candidate. But
oh, shit.
Also James Tallarico, there's some ads running against him, the Democrat, that he's way too far left. He's way too woke for Texas on some of his issues. So whoever it is, I think
we shall see. We shall see how this plays out. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on. We're going to be talking about a little bit of what happened over there in Garden Grove. We started reporting on it yesterday. I've been following it for a couple of days now. Threat of major explosion from toxic chemical tank is eliminated, officials say. But yes, there was 40,000, actually up to 50,000 is the new number of people that were evacuated from the area. But now they're saying that the major explosion possibility is now basically eliminated. But there are still thousands of people that are under an evacuation order. This doesn't mean that there's not going to be a smaller explosion. Even the officials said that there's a possibility that this is going to happen like this. So anyways, let's go ahead and bring this up. Here we go.
Let's continue on here on Live Now from Fox and bring into the conversation live in Garden Grove State Senator in California, Tom Umberg. Tom, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Senator comes on.
Positive news
cool.
that they reduced the size of the evacuation, that the catastrophic explosion, they're limiting that. They don't believe that's out there. What do you make of this news today?
No, that is very positive news. The fact that the evacuation zones being reduced means that
Okay, can we fix his audio, please?
many people will be able to go home, but the situation is not completely resolved. There's still some danger. So those who've been asked to evacuate should stay in place.
What's up,
We
Jay?
recognize that
Good morning, my man. It's been a minute. Absolutely. Good morning
there's
to
a
you.
great deal of frustration that folks want to go home, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure they can go home as quickly as possible. While we've gotten good news, it's not completely resolved.
Yeah, it's not completely resolved, and they're going to go stagger by stagger to kind of get everybody home.
Appreciate that, Jack.
And doing it safely. But it has been a monumental effort to try to pick away at some of this insulation. Obviously concerned about the leaks. What are you hearing from people in your district, in the 34th district there in California, about how they're feeling? Because I imagine it's a holiday weekend, you're displaced from your home. What are you hearing from people?
People are very understandably frustrated because many of those folks were evacuated, allowed to go back to their homes, and evacuated again. So I can understand why there's some.
So you get evacuated, you leave, you go wherever you got to go, hotels, family members, different houses, whatever. And then you get called, okay, now you're good to come back. They come back. And then as soon as they get back, they're like, no, actually, you got to turn around and go back and leave again.
Frustration and irritation. We're hopeful that the next time they go home, they will stay home. People want to know when they go home. They want to know what we're going to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again. It is absolutely unacceptable that you've got the tanks that are full of very volatile chemicals that could create an explosion of catastrophic proportions or a leak of toxic fumes that could make people very, very ill in a residential area. So it's our job to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, what are you talking to the EPA? Have you had conversations with them? Because they say...
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the deal is, TVT, with like their audio engineers or whatever. But like in this case, the senator's just joining from live from the area, and he's got his phone. And now I don't really know why they're why he's echoing, but he's obviously on his phone. It's sideways, you know. He joined like some, you know, StreamYard or whatever thing to be able to bring them together onto this. But that's why I always say, anytime these guys are talking to the world, it's funny. Even a guy like this California State Senator Thomas Umberg here, I would have a microphone knowing that, hey, I'm going to talk on national television and obviously international now that, you know, we've got the internet the way that it is. I'm going to have a decent microphone when I go out and report something, right? But I don't know. Just is what it is.
They're monitoring the runoff. They don't believe they have anything there. They're also aware that they don't think anything is in the air. How much and how strong of conversations do you have to have about that to make sure people are safe?
No, you're absolutely right, Andy. And I have been in conversation with EPA and also the county authorities about whether or not there's been any release of any fumes that could cause any harm whatsoever. And thus far...
Well, it would be hard to say that no fumes have been released from this tank. I mean, there's a crack in the tank, and that's what's, quote unquote, relieving the pressure. So if that's relieving the pressure, obviously that vapor is escaping, right?
I've been assured that it's not been any sort of release that's going to cause sickness or harm at this point.
Okay, so that's why he says exactly that way. We can't say that it hasn't necessarily happened, you know, but not enough to actually be warranted of worry of the community is basically what he's getting at there.
That doesn't mean that we're in the clear. It just simply means that right now, that's the state of play.
Yeah, and obviously we do know that they're trying their best, and we have both people on the ground in California, but the federal involvement, President Trump has approved that federal funding. You spoke with Senator Adam Schiff at this press conference, at this event today. What did you speak to him about?
No, don't really need to hear about what senators are talking to each other about. What the U.S. senator said to the state senator. Nah, we don't need to do that shit. All right, we're going to move on. No dust, no dollars. That's what this segment is called. Trump says outlines plan for Iran's nuclear material. This is regards to collecting their nuclear dust is basically what is being discussed here. Real quick, let's get the money part.
All right, just get the money part done.
Give me money. Money me. Money now.
Me a money needing a lot now.
That's actual factuals, and that's not propaganda.
Denied.
But I still love you guys. All right, let's go ahead and bring this up. Let's get into it.
Interesting comments from the president about nuclear enrichment, about enriched uranium, saying no dust, no dollars, and potentially a sticking point in this negotiation. From the New York Post saying today's cover, Trump administration declares no dust, no dollars for Iran, and the Islamic regime must give up the nuclear material.
Yeah. What's up, Agrillapis? Good morning to you, kind sir. Great to see you in the chat, by the way, my man.
For sanctions release. And on social media, President Trump talked about that. The enriched uranium, the nuclear dust, will either be immediately turned over to the United States to be brought home and destroyed, or preferably in conjunction, coordination with the Islamic Republic of Iran, destroyed in place or at another acceptable location, with the Atomic Energy Commission or its equivalent being witness to this access.
Real quick, we got my man Straight Jacket coming in hot on the Cash App. He sends in $1 saying, "Dues, cuh." Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you for the dollar in the dollar in the Cash App
event. Let's be joined right now here on Live Now from Fox by Andrea Stricker with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and obviously some interesting comments about what they need to do with this enriched uranium. What's the best case for the United States?
Great to join you, Andy. Well, I think it would be a huge accomplishment if the Trump administration is actually able to get a deal that not only set back Iran's nuclear program by around 2.5 years after 2 rounds of military strikes, but get Iran to give up its enriched uranium stockpile, to stop enriching uranium for a certain period of time, to restore IAEA access, and to get all this done within the next 30 to 60 days of negotiations. I think what Trump is backing away from, though, is the optics that Iran does not like of having to export its enriched uranium to the United States. So perhaps he's looking at other options besides the U.S. taking.
Real quick, Jay coming in with a question. Says, Mike, can you explain why if we get less than 10% of our gas from the Strait of Hormuz for the U.S. and businesses of the U.S., why is it doubled in price? What's the real reason? Well, okay, here's the thing. Obviously, if we only get actually less than, I think it's 1% from the entire strait of any oil and gas. But here's the thing. Oil and gas plays off of unfortunately, it's a world economy. It's a global, market for oil. Now, here's another thing about it is the way that we actually, refine these fuels and stuff like that when it goes and actually gets whatever, I forget whatever. Anyways, when we refine it, there's a big reason for us not actually using a lot of the stuff that we have compared to, like, even Venezuela and stuff. The refineries that are dealing with these are not really made for that kind of oil. It's made for the oil that is overseas, actually. That kind of oil is what we're on an infrastructure level able to really process correctly. We don't really process our own shit like that to an extent. We do have, the ability on a small scale, but on a large scale, we actually deal with other people's oil, which is odd. It is what it is. So we don't use a lot of our own oil. So because it's not our own oil, we're getting it and buying it from the global market, which in turn is going to come down to the consumer, which is us.
In possession, and that may be something that can help break the logjam.
Yeah, and in that post, he talked about cooperation, conjunction, another acceptable location. What exactly would another acceptable location? What's other countries might he be mentioning?
She's from the Federal Foundation of Federal Democracies, or whatever, that FDD.
Well, that's the important question: is who do we allow to export, or who do we have take possession of Iran's enriched uranium? So any of their close allies, particularly China and Russia, would cause concerns about potentially shipping the material back to Iran. Even Pakistan taking possession, which was one idea that had been floated, that raises risks as well. sending it to states that don't have nuclear weapons.
What's up, Scott Free? Good morning to you, by the way. Great to see you in the chat, as well as Raspberry Hedgehog coming in and saying hi. Good morning to you as well.
Raises proliferation concerns because some of it is highly enriched uranium and could be used directly in a nuclear weapon. Now, Russia is one option because it took possession of Iran's enriched uranium stocks during the 2015 nuclear deal. That worked out okay, but our relationship with Moscow has deteriorated so much over the Ukraine war that we'd have to be worried that they would potentially use the stock as leverage as for something related to or unrelated to the Iran issue. Now, I think one option that's not being discussed is potentially just destroying the stockpile inside of Iran, possibly even blowing it up in the Iranian nuclear sites that we'd like.
Listen, I'm going to be honest. Even Andy Mack is like, what? Like, you think they're actually going to do that? Here's the thing. This whole nuclear aspect is a very big negotiation tool for Iran, just like how the Strait of Hormuz is. It's exactly their leverage is that. And so it's not going to be easily just, oh, come on in and destroy it now. And we're all going to stand around and watch it and smoke some counterclockwise tobacco together. That's not necessarily what's going to go down, right? So anyways, back to this.
To see disabled and destroyed the underground sites. So that's something that the U.S. should consider, I think, as they move forward in the next few weeks.
How does the United States, how does the Trump administration know that if they do go after the enriched uranium, that they got it all? Is there any percentage that remains?
Well, the truth is on the answer to what Andy is asking there, how do you know if you got it all? Well, you don't know. That's the problem with all these things. It's like, yeah, you could theoretically be blowing up the shit that you thought is their entire country's reserve of nuclear dust or whatever, right? But the truth be told, you don't know. We don't know. That shit could be they have underground cities over there, man. That's what they do. So I don't know.
That would be problematic.
It's an important question because Iran does have around 9,000 kilograms of enriched uranium, enriched between 2 and 60%. So we hear often about the 440 kilograms of the highly enriched uranium, which is enriched to 60%. But if we don't account for those other lower enriched uranium stockpiles, that suddenly becomes very attractive to the Iranians if it's left there. But the IAEA does have a good understanding of where that material is. U.S. and Israeli intelligence also knows where it is located. It's in those Esfahan tunnels, the Fordow enrichment plant, and then Natanz under.
And that's one small, or like 3 small areas that she's talking about. There's so much that it could go, and so I don't know. They could be hiding basically anything. It's going to be near impossible to know the answer to that question. Real quick, we got a Grillipus coming in, by the way. Thank you very much, kind sir, with the 10 spot on the Cash App. He says, hope all is well, good brother, man. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. We're having a blessed time, man. Always appreciate you. And thank you for making it rain in the Cash App. Very much appreciate that 10 spot, my man. Thank you for that.
Ground enrichment plant. So it remains entombed, and we're not even sure that much of it has survived. But of course, you want to account for it. You want to locate it and ensure that all of it is removed one way or another.
And you mentioned, obviously, having other nations be involved, depending on who they are and their relationships with the United States and Iran. That could pose some problems. The IAEA getting involved in terms of this, do they have to be involved? Would there be any other way?
I think that's the best way to go because they are a neutral third party. They have decades of experience inspecting in Iran. They have a decent relationship.
Yeah. Do we even trust these people that are coming in and inspecting and all that shit? I don't. Anyways, let's go ahead and scroll through and see if we have any governmental posts from this. If we don't, or images, we'll move on. We do have something here from Trump. Let's go and see what Trump is saying quickly. If this is something that we haven't seen already.
To interview people, scientists in the program.
We already saw him talk about the nuclear dust. Okay. We're going to scroll on and get through to the next one. Okay, so the question about this Garden Grove chemical tank that is cracked and now had the possibility of a big explosion, but now it's come down to a smaller level possibility of explosion. People are asking what the exact chemical is in that tank, and it's actually called MMA, but that's the way that they label it or whatever. And but I can't actually pronounce the actual chemical itself, so I'm just too much of a retard. Real quick, we got Grillipus coming in with the 5 gifted memberships. Yo, that's humongous. Thank you very much, kind sir. Definitely goes a long way, bro. Thank you very much for that. All right, let's go ahead and bring this up, and I'll quickly get into this. And yes, by the way, that shit helps out 5 other IWF members, man. Thank you very much for that.
We're going to be joined right now by Dr. Elaine Bernal from Cal State Long Beach, a lecturer in the chemistry department. I appreciate your time and your understanding of this, because obviously it is very complex. Obviously, they are saying that the worst is behind us, that there's no real concern about a major explosion. When you hear what they said today, what was your perspective?
So thank you for having me. Good evening.
I really, I don't care about her perspective, honestly. Let's go ahead and see if there's like any actual images here.
Action. So that way you have.
And I want her to explain what the actual chemical is, which it sounds like they're about to.
A continuous and even reaction going, so that you can control for the temperature, so that you can control for the.
Yeah, unfortunately, the temperature is maxed out. So I think that the gauge goes up to like 100 degrees or something like that. But nonetheless, that's way higher than it should be sitting. It should be way lower. Like, I don't know what the storage temperature needs to be, but what they're saying is the max on the actual dial that shows, the temperature, the gauge, it's maxed out at 100, and they cannot bring it down. They're having a problem bringing down the temperature. It must be having some sort of reaction.
So that way, with that stable conditions, even as the temperatures were presenting at a very dangerous level, it can be monitored.
Well, look at all those vapors. I mean, leaving the tank and going into the communities, and they're like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal yet. Yeah, well,
and they say
I think
this
it is
heavier than water, lighter than water, heavier than air. As they're kind of trying to track some runoff as well, but they're not really concerned too much about health impacts in the area. Can you speak to that as all? Obviously, they are evacuating them for that catastrophic explosion. They limited it down because they don't believe that is in the cards further. Are there health impacts? Do you know?
Yes, while there are health impacts like respiratory issues, skin irritation, eye irritation. So far, as far as the air monitoring data that has been released, that there is no detectable dangerous levels of MMA that can affect the public. Also, for the chief to state that the water is clean. So that means that there are no detectable levels of MMA in the water.
Yeah, that is,
I mean, like a lot of people have family that's over there in, Southern California. I don't have any particular like actual members of my family in Garden Grove, but I have them around Garden Grove, and I have a lot of friends in Garden Grove. So I'm hoping that they're doing well. Fortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to find exactly what, but here, let me go ahead and read this. Officials reduced the evacuation zone for some residents living near a faulty tank containing hazardous chemicals in Garden Grove, California. Earlier Monday, which was yesterday, emergency officials said that there is no longer a risk of catastrophic explosion involving a tank containing methacrylate at the GKN Aerospace Transparency Systems and plant in Garden Grove. Authorities said they have not detected hazardous chemical levels as of Monday, which I think is a little bit of cap. Officials have been working to cool the tank to prevent a toxic leak or explosion. Covey said the temperature inside the tank dropped to 93 degrees Fahrenheit on Monday, which was yesterday, down from 100 degrees Fahrenheit a day earlier. So this was the temperature control problem that they were having. This is actually great to hear that they're on the downward trend. They're at 93 degrees rather than 100 and maxed out on the actual thing. But anyways, that's what's happening. We're keeping you guys updated with all of the stuff over there. We're following the story, of course. All right. Strikes ramp up across the Middle East. As we obviously know, that's what we started off basically talking about at the top of this show. After U.S. strikes in Iran as, quote, self-defense. Let's go ahead and bring this up and see if we get anything from governmental officials or anything
Back to a
here.
social media post courtesy of Reuters says this: U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said a deal with Iran could still be days away, tempering hopes for a swift end to the conflict.
Thomas, that was specifically what we were looking at with the chemical plant, or the tank, I mean. That is in Garden Grove in Southern California.
A day after U.S. forces carried out what Washington called defensive strikes in southern Iran. Want to bring us out also to a live look at the radar system we have over the Strait of Hormuz. This is courtesy of Marine Traffic. So we have limited details on a deal, but potentially it would include the fact that the war would end, the Strait of Hormuz would reopen gradually.
And by the way, this is not radar view, just so you guys know. What it actually is AIS. But anyways.
And Iran would give up its stockpile of enriched uranium. As we just mentioned, on Monday, the U.S. military carried out...
Oh, man. Southern California is riddled with that, Bob. Southern California is riddled with that. We've got refineries in the middle of major cities. We've got all sorts of chemical plants and all of that shit within neighborhoods, dude. Within neighborhoods, like right there, off freeways, off into, yeah, I mean, you just drive Southern California, you'll see them all over the place like that.
Quote, self-defense strikes in southern Iran, even as President Trump said on social media that negotiations with Tehran were proceeding nicely. Also, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson.
Real quick, we got a Cash App that I gotta announce real quick. Let's see what we got here. We got my man Virginia Chaos coming in and saying, "Embrace your fuck ups for $5, man." I very much appreciate that. Let's just go ahead and do it, my man.
Don't beat yourself up over past mistakes. You are going to fuck up again in the future, quite possibly in a most spectacular fashion. Why worry about yesterday's fuck ups when you have tomorrow's fuck ups to look forward to? You are a fuck up. And fucking up is part of your growth process. Embrace the process.
Embrace thy process. We're embraced. We're embraced now. All right, let's go ahead and get into this craziness here. Boom.
Said that while understandings have been reached on a large portion of the issues, there was still work to be done. He added, quote, to say that this means an agreement is on the verge of being signed is not something anyone can claim. Joining us now to discuss all of these developments is Jonathan Schanzer. He is the executive.
Oh, PJ did ask and request for it. It's true. It's
Man, motherfuckers talk all the shit they want. But you see me, I'm sitting up here snacking on this big ass sandwich, not getting a fuck. Kiss my dick, motherfucker.
True though. All right. All right.
Director with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Jonathan, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so I gave a little recap of what we know so far. In your assessment, Jonathan, how much closer are we today to actually reaching a deal based on what we're hearing from the U.S.?
Now, this is just coming out this morning, by the way.
And Iran.
Well, I got to say, I look to Iran primarily because they're the spoiler. In other words, we know that the Trump administration wants a deal. We know that they're working with regional partners in order to try to reach one. It's the Islamic Republic that has consistently thrown up roadblocks, and they consistently say no to some of America's core demands, specifically on the nuclear file. That seems to be the one that is the stickiest, and not a surprise. They've been intransigent over this issue now for for decades, in fact. So not a surprise there, but I'm a little surprised that after the strikes that took place last night, that we are apparently still in the process of negotiation. In other words, the diplomatic engagement continues despite the hostilities. I would say that's probably a good sign for Marco Rubio, who is obviously determined to try to push this across the finish line.
You mentioned there that the U.S. obviously is working with regional partners to try to get to a deal. Iran doing the same, sending its parliament speaker to Qatar for those negotiations over the possible deal with the U.S. Qatar, it did face intense attacks from Iran during the war. It also holds billions of dollars in frozen Iranian funds. Speaking specifically on Qatar, what kind of role are they playing right now within these negotiations? And also, where do their priorities lie?
Well, I think it's their priorities that we really need to talk about here. I mean, this is a regime that has been a persistent and generous sponsor of Hamas. In other words, this war that broke out 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago now.
It's funny that you say this straight. A couple of years ago, She was a little heavier than she is now. But she's definitely lost a lot of weight over the last couple of years, by the way. So she definitely is looking a lot better.
We're watching right now is an extension of this war that Hamas essentially helped to foment, and the Qataris helped to foment. And the Qataris, their role needs to be addressed here very clearly. They are to blame for a lot of what's going on. They were joint patrons with the Islamic Republic of Iran in sponsoring those 10/7 attacks. I should also just note that the Qataris
Man, I hate when it's like, come on. We don't every single time need to talk about October 7th, respectfully. I mean, listen, we all know it happened. We all condemn it. None of us think that it's right. And of course, it is something that is a talking point for a lot of these guys that are I would say Zionist and or actual Israelis. I believe this man, by the way, is actually Jewish. So it kind of obviously makes sense that he's gonna, kind of have that rhetoric. But nonetheless, real quick, I want to see because we gave him his intro there. We allow him to give his opening, but he's kind of going on about like history and of course, history does matter. But right now, I care about today. I care about what is happening today. We've already been reporting daily leading up to this. All the way from October 7th. Since before that. So, anyways, let's go ahead and scroll ahead and hear what we got
signed
here.
the first Abraham Accords that was with.
Oh, here's the Abraham Accords thing. So maybe it'll be discussed here. Steve Easy. Let's go ahead and hear about that.
Why does President Trump feel it's particularly important for Saudi Arabia and Pakistan to join? And why is he pushing this to end the war as well?
Well, this is Trump's legacy. From the first administration, he signed the first Abraham Accords that was with the UAE and subsequently Bahrain, and then also Morocco. Sudan was the one that fell apart, but he got three really good.
Yes, that's very true. If it looks like a fupa, you eat it like a chalupa. You know what I mean? True.
Bruh. Agreements locked in during his first term. He had planned to get the Saudis as well. They were on the 5-yard line when Trump lost the election, and the whole discussion of Abraham Accords had to wait for the Saudis. Now, fast forward to where we are today. I do think that there is a wide recognition, at least among Persian Gulf states, that the Israelis have been fighting alongside the United States in defense of these Arab states that still refuse to engage with Israel. At least publicly. I think that this has probably changed the narrative to some extent or another. But let me be clear. I think, number one, the Qataris should not be in the Abraham Accords for the reasons that I just mentioned. This is a duplicitous, truly dirty regime that I don't want them engaging as an ally with.
Okay, so this guy's, just so you know, he's giving a personal opinion here. And I understand, there's certain countries that are actually known for like flip-flopping or riding the fence. That happens all the time, such as like Turkey and stuff like this, which is also a NATO member, by the way. But I digress on that. Yes, there are certain regions are not to be trusted, but if we're working on something, we have to look at today. We can't look at always 70 years ago, 60 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever the case is. The truth be told, they're investing a lot of money in us personally. At this point, it looks like they're like the Qataris and all those Gulf nations are actually bought in at this point. They're literally bought in. Billions and billions and billions of dollars have been flowing into the United States because of their international investments into the United States. So they're kind of bought in at this point. They really also now with the war that we're currently in with Iran. If we were to just dip out of there, right? If we just fucking left, the Gulf states would be fucked. And at this point, you have to go and finish the job on a certain level to leave the region. So once you leave the region, you don't have Iran that's got to stick up their ass regarding the Gulf states. So now that's a whole issue, on a geopolitical level, it's an issue. But anyways, this guy's just giving his, personal thoughts, whatever. We obviously know what side of the aisle he's on. It's all right. Just is what it is. Now, real quick, what I did want to bring up is Marco Rubio. I do have this real quick. I want to go ahead and bring this up. And the way that this is titled is Iran's Khamenei, or whatever you say it, declares end of safe havens for U.S. forces. So let's go ahead and hear this real quick. There is going to be some, why can't I get rid of this stupid chat screen? Let me see if I just refresh, because they're probably not live anymore. Yep, perfect. All right, this off of First Post, by the way. Let's just go ahead and get a little bit of context from this report real quick, which I would like. Rubio calls Quad key to U.S. strategy. All right, let's see.
In New Delhi, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has now departed India after a 4-day visit, said the Quad remains a key part of Washington's global strategy.
This just came out, by the way.
Has been to turn this from a forum in which we meet and talk about problems to one where we actually do something about it.
Well, the Quad foreign ministers' meeting in New Delhi marked a fresh push to strengthen cooperation among the four nations. India's S. Jaishankar, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Australia's Penny Wong, and Japan's Toshimitsu Motegi discussed regional security and economic challenges. Rubio said the four countries share common values with many aligned interests.
For each of these four nations represented here today,
What's up, Fidel, by the way? Good morning.
their unique capabilities
Listen to this terrible audio that they captured. Terrible.
that collectively we can bring to bear on some of the most significant problems facing the world, whether it's the humanitarian response, whether it's the security of energy, whether it's the freedom of navigation, whether it's the need to diversify our supplies, and not just energy, but critical minerals and supply chains.
Well, the group announced two new maritime initiatives. One will combine surveillance capabilities of the four countries. The other will provide better real-time information to commercial shipping traffic. Well, the move comes as the Quad countries continue to push for a free and open Indo-Pacific region.
At the global level, we have to address issues like supply chain resilience, connectivity choke points, manufacturing and resource concentrations.
This is the man that they did a joint press conference with Marco Rubio yesterday. Remember when we presented that for you guys? This is also being referred to from yesterday. I do believe, anyways. These are clips from, yes, May 26th. So I guess this actually did happen today. But the original joint press conference, which was not held right there, it was actually held on a stage or whatnot. But nonetheless, the joint press conference was decent. I'm always kind of impressed recently not, I guess I shouldn't say always, just recently. Actually, pretty damn impressed with Marco Rubio, gotta admit.
And gaps in critical infrastructure. Each one of them offers a new argument for more partnerships, stronger growth, and realizing the promise of technologies.
The Quad also announced its first joint infrastructure project in the Pacific. The Australian foreign minister said the four countries will work together to develop port infrastructure in Fiji. Well, the project is part of the new Ports of the Future partnership. Rubio said the initiative will help improve port capacity in the Pacific Islands and show the group's ability to deliver long-term infrastructure. The announcement is significant as Pacific Island nations have become a key area.
In the coming days, whether it is economic activity, energy trade, or maritime commerce, the Indo-Pacific will become even more important to the world. The responsibilities of the Quad will grow commensurately, and we must prepare for that.
China, though, has concerns. In recent years, it has expanded its influence in the region and continues to view the Quad with suspicion.
China has repeatedly made clear its position on the quadrilateral security dialogue. We have consistently maintained that cooperation between countries should contribute to regional peace, stability, and prosperity, and should not target any third party. We also do not support the formation of exclusive cliques or bloc confrontation. No cooperation should undermine mutual trust and cooperation among countries in the region.
The Quad countries, though, also agreed to boost cooperation on critical minerals.
I got you.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
Shit.
Oh, shit! Oh, shit!
Energy security. They launched a new critical minerals framework aimed at making supply chains more resilient. The framework will support coordination in mining, processing, recycling, and investment. India and the United States also signed a separate framework agreement on critical minerals and rare.
Oh, he's lagging. That's not us.
Well, the issue has gained restricted exports of some key minerals used in.
Looks like they got internet bombarded there. Let's go and skip forward.
And whether it's scrap, because we both have a strategic and shared interest in the fact that vibrant innovation.
And this is from today.
Economies such as ours cannot afford to leave the foundational materials of these industries vulnerable to the single source monopolies that could deny us these things, not just in a time of conflict, but as a leverage point in contrary to our sovereign national interest.
Well, the meeting took place at a time of global uncertainty. The United States and Iran are still discussing a possible agreement to end their 3-month conflict and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Japan's Motegi said the world is going through major structural changes with rising global tensions, while Australia's Penny Wong was keen to emphasize the importance of the Quad as the region continues to navigate choppy waters.
We will want to be as strong and as effective as we can make it be, focused on delivering.
Now, this is the foreign minister for Australia.
We are determined to continue its momentum.
Well, the Quad had faced questions in recent months after Leaders' Summit failed to take place last year. Analysts had wondered whether the group was losing momentum. But Tuesday's meeting sent a different message. Rubio said the United States remains deeply committed to the Quad partnership. He said the group is a linchpin of America's strategy in the region. So for now, the four countries say they're focused on turning their partnership into practical action across the Indo-Pacific. Well, for more perspective, we have with us Jeffrey Gunter, former US ambassador under President Trump, joining us live now from Las Vegas. Good to have you with us, Ambassador.
I'll go ahead and hear his first opening here, if we can even hear him.
Did you fears?
Man, this live feed, when they were live streaming this, obviously they had super shitty internet.
First, thank you for having me on your show. The Quad is extremely strategic convergence among four great democracies, and quite honestly, many countries around the world.
Come on.
It's not a coincidence that the linchpin of this group of countries in the Quad, Australia, Japan, India, and the United States of America, are founded in democracy. And there's a convergence of interests. And you just look at the great accomplishments that they've made in this meeting. You'd like to talk about results. This was a very substantive, results-oriented meeting, the Quad. And quite honestly, this is not something new. We've known that there's a great power struggle going on with the United States and China and many other countries around the world. And the Quad's strength, the Quad's future, is a response to that great power struggle going on in the Indo-Pacific. And India has a huge role in this. They're a great democratic partner for us. And this strategic convergence will continue to go forward as we build the strength of the Quad. And again, actions speak louder than words. You just have to look at the strong diplomatic force that Donald J. Trump, our great president, has put into the region. In India, we have Sergio Gore. There's no one who's really more connected and more competent than Sergio Gore in India itself. He came out of the
For a very short time there, Gary, very short time.
Office of Presidential Personnel. You look in Japan, we have Ambassador George Glass, extremely competent ambassador who was just in Portugal. So there's a great focus on the Indo-Pacific. There's a great focus on rare earth minerals. There's a great focus of the free maritime going on there. And it's not a coincidence that we're building a port. We're looking towards building another port in Fiji. Why? Because maritime security is so important to all the countries that are sitting there in the Quad.
All right. So that would be an easy way for us to go ahead and conclude that. Listen, I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough for the amount of love and engagement, support that you guys show the show. Also hitting that like button, double tapping that screen. All the donations that you guys selflessly send in, man, I'm very honored to be able to do this Monday through Friday. And of course, Saturday morning for members only. Listen, stick around. We're going to be raiding somebody. His name is Scott. Make sure you guys let him know we're coming through with the Mike Ball raid. Always appreciate that. And it looks like he's celebrating his 1,000 subscriber celebration. He's doing literally a 24-hour live stream, I think, or whatever. Anyways, go support that. You know, show a little love and support in there as well. All right, until tomorrow morning for more of the World's Madness. God bless everyone. We'll see you guys very soon, and be safe out there. Much love.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges.